Hello, and welcome to the ASDRP Researcher Interview Series. Today, I'll be talking with Aditi Deshpande. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking. To start off, I would like to know how you found out about ASDRP.
Yeah, so I was a freshman in high school, and I was really looking for ways to expand my knowledge in biology since I really enjoyed that class in school. And so a family friend actually told us about ASDRP and how it challenges high schoolers to go beyond their comfort zones. And after I heard that, I was like, "Yep, I'm definitely applying."
That's awesome. So how long have you had an interest in science for?
Probably for a long time. I definitely remember like 5-year-old me doing science experiments at my house, especially with my parents.
That's awesome. That's super cute. Um, I'm wondering what high school do you go to?
I go to Amador Valley High School in Pleasanton, California.
Nice. And what year are you?
I'm an incoming sophomore.
Nice. So how long have you been researching at ASDRP?
I started in spring of 2022, so this is my second semester.
Okay, awesome. And who's your advisor for this summer session?
My advisor is Mr. Clinton Kunha. I would say he's really kind, supportive, and optimistic. So, like, whenever we have a problem in the lab or some dilemma, we can always contact him, and then really quickly he gives us a detailed answer. So, he's a great advisor.
That's awesome. That's really wonderful to hear. What project are you working on currently?
So, we are basically testing drugs on, or analogs on a colorectal cancer cell line in order to reduce the oncogenic expression. So, essentially, reduce the amount of cancer within those cells. And so I am part of the wet lab group. So I go in person into the lab and do research there.
That's very cool. What a fascinating area of study. What does a day in the life of a researcher in the lab look like?
So normally we plan to go into the lab for about 2 hours, but it always extends about for like 5 hours or so. But I would say that time goes by really fast because you're working with others and you're working with your advisor, and I find it really fun. So just before you know it, time's like already passed by.
That's awesome. That sounds so cool. Would you mind talking a little bit more about your research and some of the specific um, things that you're looking at right now?
Yeah, sure. So right now we're kind of working with establishing a healthy cell line. And so our cells had some problems for my first semester. And so they're starting to look really healthy right now. And so we're trying to establish a cell line on one part. And then also on another part, we're trying to run experiments on those cells. For example, an immunoblot to kind of measure the amount of proteins in that cell. And then like an MTT assay to measure the cell viability and proliferation.
Very cool. What is a line of cells? What does that mean?
A line of cells is so we're working with a type of cells called colorectal cancer cells. And so a line of cells is just trying to split them, trying to make them grow in order to have like an abundant amount of cells. So then we can use those cells for certain experiments.
Okay, very cool. So you're like taking care of them.
Exactly.
Awesome. Um, what has been one of the greatest challenges you've encountered so far in your research?
For me, the biggest challenge was probably getting used to the literature in the beginning of my time at ASDRP. So, our advisor gave us some papers to read, and I did not understand most of the terminology. And so I had to kind of Google up every alternate word in the abstract or paper. But in that sense, I would say that our advisor was really helpful and understanding in kind of getting us incorporated and getting used to the bio research life.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys have so much dedication, especially the students who come in earlier in high school and haven't had a chance to take the upper level like chem and bio classes. It's really impressive how quickly you learn and assimilate into the research environment.
Thank
What
you.
what has how much time do you spend outside of lab reading the articles and preparing to do the experiments?
So when I first started, I it took about a month or so, I think, of just reading the literature to kind of get an idea of what the research was in the first place. But now I think that we're just reading protocols for trying to conduct experiments. And so oftentimes the protocols are very interactive with what we're doing in the lab. So we just kind of glance over it at home, and then we read it more thoroughly in the lab so we can kind of have a hands-on experience with all the stuff we have in the lab.
Okay, very cool. Nice. What is it like working with your team in the lab?
I would say that working with the team is what inspires me most to continue doing research. Just the way that we always have insightful discussions, but we also manage to keep it fun and lighthearted. And also, we just kind of bounce ideas off of each other, which just helps us understand the research a little bit better.
Definitely. That's been something so cool I've learned about in these interviews is how much the peer support really comes out. And that's such a cool environment to be in. I'm so glad that you guys can experience that. Um, in line with what you just said, what has been the most rewarding thing about your research so far?
The most rewarding thing, probably when our cells survived for more than 3 days. So, like I said, they were kind of dying. They were looking really unhealthy the first semester, and then one fine day they just started looking healthy after a split. And it gave my team and I motivation that we could continue and progress further in our research.
That's great. Yeah, it's definitely a boost. Um, so have you been in the project that you were working on now last semester also?
Yes, I decided to continue, and I probably want to continue in the future as well, just because I really like my advisor and my team in general.
That's awesome. Where do you see what do you see as the real world applications? I mean, I know cancer research, but just kind of in general, the applications of what you're researching.
I think it just gave me a great insight into the work life. And so, like within the work life, particularly with working with others, just like collaborating with others. And also, I would like to kind of learn more about cells because I am interested in a career in the medical field. And so, just caring for cells is kind of similar to caring for patients. So, like, you still have to give your time, you have to give your energy, and just give like emotional support to the cells essentially to help them prosper.
Definitely. That's a great connection to the practical experience. Um, and do you feel as though your research has changed anything about the way you view the world?
Yes, so I think that the main values it's kind of taught me is like probably resilience. So I've learned that if there is a problem in the real world, it's like learn to appreciate the problem and learn to appreciate the struggles just as much as the results, as the output, because with that struggle, you can grow and you can become better the next time you do it since you learn from your mistakes.
That's really wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Um, and that kind of ties into another question, which is what advice would you give to future researchers looking to join ASDRP?
The biggest piece of advice I would give is to never be afraid to ask questions. Since when I first joined, I was kind of hesitant to ask a lot of questions because I was like fearful whether it would be a bad question. But then I learned that it's better to over clarify because at least then you can become more comfortable with your area of research and also you can better understand the research that other people at ASDRP are doing in different fields. And I feel like that's really cool.
Definitely. That's great advice. What is your favorite aspect of the activities that are done at ASDRP? Do you like presenting at the colloquia? Do you like putting together, like writing up what you've done in the lab, or doing the research? I'm just curious what your favorite part is.
My favorite part would probably be, I guess, writing abstracts with my group, just because it kind of, first of all, because there are two parts in our group. There's like a wet lab group, and then also a computational aspect of the group. So they're like scanning for certain drugs. And so when we all meet up as a whole and we write an abstract, it helps us understand what both the groups are doing. and it kind of creates like a better bond within us.
Awesome. What a cool time. What a cool time to come all together to do that. Um, well, it's been so wonderful talking with you today, learning more about your research. It sounds like you're doing really amazing things. Um, and it's cool that you're hands-on in the lab. Before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to share today? Any stories or further advice?
I would just probably like to thank ASDRP for the opportunity to do research, and for anyone who's considering joining, definitely do because it's a great experience working with others, working with your research, and yeah, just it just really helps high schoolers in general.
That's great. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for being an asset to ASDRP. All the researchers are they're so awesome and important to the mission, and that's great. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and good luck in the rest of your research this summer.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.